Welcome to the CT Educator podcast. I am your host, Karina Hogan. I am a registered CT technologist with 20 years of experience and knowledge. I help new CT technologists level up their CT training so that you can become a successful technologist. I'm also a mom and committed to sharing my knowledge and expertise to help you build your confidence, know the CT basics so that you can deliver quality patient care. So let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back, technologists. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. I know I'm bringing you this episode a little late. Sometimes life be lifing, if you know what I mean. So just working back-to-back shifts. I've had to work 4 shifts in a row. It was my weekend to work. And the weather is getting colder in the Midwest, so there is just a lot of things happening. Plus, I am taking part in something called the Winter Arc, so I am on day 44, and the struggle is real. When it comes to, when you're working on a goal and you're trying to accomplish it, and I'm giving myself, that last 3 months push to get to the goal of 145 pounds, more muscle on my body, and making quite a bit of money in my business. So lots of good things happening. Lots of good things happening for the CT Educator as well. So one thing that I am working on, and I think I said this in a previous episode, is the CT Educator is coming to YouTube. So yes, in January of 2025, the CT Educator will officially be on YouTube. So you will see the actual live video recordings of this podcast, along with a lot of how-to videos and a lot of educational content. So stay tuned for that, as I will drop the date on when that will be available and live. So I'm super excited about that. I wanted to do it this year, but I have so many things going on with the holidays, kids, work, and just a ton of things that I'm just not going to be able to get to it. So stay tuned for those updates. So if you're on my email list, I will be releasing that as well. Or if you follow me on Instagram, make sure that you guys stay tuned for that, because I will be releasing the date on when that will drop live in January of 2025. Okay. And some more housekeeping is, if you haven't heard me talk about it, and you're probably sick of me talking about it, I am super excited because I have created a group coaching program for new CT technologists. So I have several things that I offer in my business. So first thing is I offer a 6-month group and mentorship program where you come inside, you get on-demand courses. I drop a live course every single week for the next 6 months so that you can stay tip top on the latest and greatest in CT, keep your CT training just tip top, and just be the best go-to technologist you can be. So you get 6 months with me. I go ahead and I not only coach and mentor you, you get courses, you get PDF files, you get the CT Blueprint ebook, and you get just a bunch of educational material so you can be the go-to CT tech. So that program is priced at $5,000. There are payment plans for that. I also offer a 90-day CT Blueprint program where for 90 days you get to come in, you get some on-demand classes, courses, files, educational material, you name it, you get it all. And in 90 days, we get you from being just so ho-hum on your training to being efficient in your training, okay? So I will map out goals just like I do in my 6-month program. We'll find out where the gaps are and get you to where you need to be, okay? This will prepare you so that you are registry ready, so you can take that CT registry and feel confident in passing, okay? That program is $1,500. There's also a payment plan for that. I drop one live course each month for 90 days, okay? Then I also offer a 101 CT basics and concepts. If you just kind of need a course to kind of get you started, That is $350, and that's available now. So all the links to all my programs are in the show notes. Okay. So let's dive into today's episode. So in today's episode, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. So what we're going to be talking about in this episode is a 8-week CT training checklist and some simple steps that you can start applying today to get your training on the right path. Now, there is going to be a PDF document attached to this episode that you can download for free because I'm going to be diving deep into each week for 8 weeks on what you should be working on as a new technologist starting your CT training. Okay. I wish that a guide would have been available like this for me because I think it would have made my training a lot easier and I probably would have learned a lot more. So I know that this is a dire need, especially when new technologists are coming into the department. X-ray techs are cross training. This is a really good resource and a really good guide to help you along the way. Okay. So like I said, you will get free access. A link will be in the show notes so you can download this checklist. Okay. So how I'm going to go ahead and kind of explain and just kind of piece this together in this episode is we're going to start out with week 1. Okay. And I've kind of, made some notes so I can kind of just go step by step on how this is going to work. Okay. And all this will be in the PDF guide. So you're new to CT. It's, week 1, day 1, whatever the case is. Okay. What I think CT technologists need to start out with is you need to know where everything is in the department. Okay. So week 1 is basically knowing where all your supplies are, where everything is stored, where contrast and saline are stored, IV access when it comes to IV start kits, needles, where the sheets are, where the blankets are, because those are things that are important. Okay. And I think those are things that, and it might sound, redundant. It might sound small and just like, who cares? No, but it's something that we need to know. Okay. The next thing is the computer systems that you use when you look up orders and you look up all the CT exams that need to be scanned. So that is your EMR, your PACS, your advanced workstation. If there are third-party programs, like we use Vitria, for any 3D processing. I know all the vendors have like an extended workstation where you can do 3Ds and send those thin data sets there for the radiologists. Okay. Those are important for you to know what they are and where they are. Okay. Next thing is policies and procedures, your protocol book, your QA book. Those are very important because you need to know how we execute things in CT because the policies and procedures are a little bit different in CT versus X-ray, okay, or versus MRI. So you need to know what those are. QA, quality assurance, quality control. We need to know where those books are because that is something that we do on a daily basis, okay? The next thing is your protocol book. Protocol book, you need to know what that is because you need to know all the different types of exams that get done in CT. So it should have a list and it should have like a table of content of what each protocol is, how to execute it, what to set up. You start from here to here, just so that you can be familiar when you look at the protocols on the scanner and you're selecting, you know exactly what you're scanning and what you're doing, right? And then getting to know the CT operating system. So it's the layout of your scanner, the buttons, the function, how the table goes up and down, how the protocols are segmented on the computer, and how to find them. The power injector, how to turn the unit on and off. Those are some things that may seem small, but as a new technologist, you need to know those, okay? How the functioning of the power injector works, and what the buttons do and how to load it, and table functions, and the different buttons on the operator console. Those are all very important things that we need to know in week 1. So we need to know how to, properly look for them and know where they're at. Now, for week 2, what I feel is super important is techs know their basic core exams. So what do I mean by core exams? Is your CT of the head. That is the most commonly ordered exam, okay? So you need to know how to execute those properly, how to center them properly, and make sure that you're ISO center with those crosshairs, okay, in your laser light, right? Your PE studies. We know that PE studies get ordered on a daily, okay? You have to know how to execute them correctly and how to properly administer contrast. Your CT of the abdomen and pelvis, another common exam, okay? Those come with or without contrast. So you need to know how to execute those properly. And then another common exam that I see, and they're usually ordered together with the CT of the head, is a CTC spine. Usually, if there's trauma, falls, things like that, make sure you know how to ISO center that and scan that correctly. Okay. So those are kind of your core exams. I've just picked, 4 of them because those are the ones that we see the most. And those are the ones that you need to master, especially in week 2. You have to learn how to scan. Okay. Learn how to properly center patients for the exams. Set up the exams correctly. Make sure you go through all your recons and know how to do your processing. Learn how to set up the power injector because PE studies and abdomen and pelvis exams require IV contrast, right? Know how to administer them correctly, know the flow rates, the amount of contrast, the timing, and how to check for proper IV access. Those are all things that you need to know in week 2. Now, for week 3, learning how to review orders, review the labs, allergies, and special considerations when it comes to patients. So, what do I mean by special considerations? This is your pregnant patients. This is your dialysis patients, patients who have a very high creatinine or a low GFR. Okay. We want to make sure we take extra caution when it comes to that and get physician approval if we are to inject because of medical necessity. Contrast allergies, okay? Your diabetic patients. Those are things that we take into consideration because we have to handle those in a different way. And how to properly document when you are going outside of any of those parameters because of medical necessity and it's needed for the patient. So, week 4, your patient care, which ties into week 3. So, this is your CT patient, like how to communicate with patients before you start the exam, communicate to them in terms that they can understand as far as what type of exam they're having, what will be happening during the exam, what types of side effects they'll feel if you're giving IV contrast, any breathing instructions, instructions to not move, and make sure that you communicate what will happen after the exam. If they need to hydrate per se, or if they need to stop metformin, if that is still a practice in your facility, things of that nature. Okay. And make sure that you have proper patient prep, no metal wherever the body part you're scanning, proper IV access if you have to start it, or if they come from the emergency room or upstairs from the floor. Make sure that you know how to execute that patient care. Now, in week 5, we're going to start getting a little bit more technical. So, this is where I believe you need to know your QA and your calibrations. Okay. So, your QA is to measure the standard deviation and making sure that all the appropriate factors when it comes to the different densities that are seen in CT are within the correct parameters. Okay. So that is super important. And then your error calibrations, that's to make sure that your unit is still functioning properly and everything calibrates to what is required per your physicist. Okay. And documentation, that's why we have QA books, because we have to document the numbers. Because if we're either below or above that 3 to 5% deviation, then there's something wrong with all the densities. And then, your scans are going to look like shit. Okay. And that's where our physicist has to come in and test it, and possibly, the vendor has to come and readjust those. Okay. So that is super important. And those are very, very important to keep your CT unit running efficiently. Now, in week 6, I think we can start talking about what's the difference between axial and helical scanning. Now, I know when you're learning your basic core exams, that is something that it's important. But I think in week 2, you need to just learn how to scan, not, all the technical details just yet, because I think you need to get comfortable. So in week 6, it's axial and helical scanning. So to tell what the difference is between both of those scanning modes versus, axial and helical. Now, I could tell you axial, we do it more with head imaging. Okay. Helical scanning, we do with all the other body parts, especially with chest and abdomen and pelvises. So that's where you go in and you're going to learn the difference between those scan modes. Okay. So axial, think of it as more of a step and shoot. Okay. Where helical, it's just the x-ray tube and the table is moving continuously around the patient together. Okay. Now in week 7, still going to get more technical because I think at this point you're starting to learn more about CT, is talking about the difference between scan field of view and display field of view. So your FOV and your DOV. So the difference between the two and how it affects image quality, because there is a difference. Okay. And in this guide, I will kind of briefly describe all these things that I'm talking about on this episode. And then in week 8, the difference between raw data and image data and how both are used and what cannot be reconstructed and how you distinguish between both of them. Okay. As far as raw data and image data. Okay. So I've kind of put together this PDF guide. I feel it's very helpful for technologists, and that you can just kind of run through and apply it to your CT training. Okay. So that is it for this episode. I hope that all these steps were very helpful. And don't forget to download the free PDF guide. It'll be in the show notes so that you can, apply this and complement this with your training and possibly implement some of this stuff, right? So make sure you check out the show notes. Come join my program. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm excited to teach you all the things that I know about CT and share my knowledge, okay? As always, if you have a CT question or you have a interesting CT story, make sure to email me. My email is in the show notes. It's at contact@thecteducator.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at the CT Educator, where I share a lot of educational reels. I do Protocol Mondays, and I do a lot of good stuff to keep you in the know. Also, make sure you join my email list, okay? So with this free PDF guide, you'll have a chance to join my email list because I send out emails every week on the different things that I talk about education-wise. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you guys next week. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you would like to share your CT experience, have an interesting story to share, or need help in your CT training, please email me your questions at contact@thecteducator.com. Follow along on Instagram at the CT Educator, also on Facebook at the CT Educator. Don't forget to like, share, leave a 5-star review, as this will help support the show and it'll reach all of you that need guidance. Thank you for listening, and happy scanning.